My son locked the fridge and said, "You've had enough." Not loud, not angry, just final, like he was closing a chapter that no longer included me. I laughed, but only once. Because in that laugh, he heard what he should have feared: calm. Behind him, my daughter-in-law stood quiet, her lipstick smiling for her. She didn't say it, but her eyes did. "This house isn't yours anymore." He turned the key, dropped it in his pocket like a trophy, and for a second I saw not my son, but a stranger raised by someone else's ambition. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just wiped my hands, looked at that silver lock glinting under the kitchen light, and said, "You're right. Maybe I have had enough." He thought I meant food. He didn't know I meant them. The silence that followed was colder than the fridge itself. They thought they'd starved my pride, but pride doesn't die that easily. It hides, it plans, because when a mother stops feeding, she starts remembering. And what I remembered changed everything. That lock became my reminder, not of control, but of opportunity. A test I didn't ask for, but one I would finish with interest. They thought it was about food. It was never about food. Stay and make sure you subscribe, because the ending will make you question everything. Till the end, you'll see why that single click turned into the sound of their downfall. The morning after the lock, I moved slower than usual, on purpose, the kind of slowness that makes guilty people nervous. He sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to notice I hadn't cooked breakfast. She poured herself juice, my juice, and didn't offer me any. Their eyes met over the glass rim, quick and smug, as if they'd crossed some finish line together. "Mom," she said softly, "we just want you to take it easy for a while. You've done enough." Enough, the same word he'd used. I nodded. "You're right, I'll rest." They smiled. Victory tasted good to them that morning. I wondered how it would taste when the flavor turned. The rest of the day, I played my part, washed a few dishes, watered the plants, stayed quiet. Silence, I've learned, is the most misunderstood weapon in a house. They thought it meant surrender. I knew it meant setup. Around noon, I found the key to my old recipe book, the one I hadn't opened in 10 years. Its pages smelled like cardamom, loss, and forgotten confidence. Inside were notes written in another version of me, the woman who used to host dinners that made people feel like royalty. I traced the ink with my finger, smiled, and whispered, "Time to feed the right crowd again." That evening, as I sat on the porch, he came outside. "Mom, you okay?" I looked up. "Perfectly fine, Beta. Just thinking we should have a nice dinner this weekend." He hesitated. Sure. Why?" "No reason," I said. "Just good manners. You never know who's watching." He didn't understand the weight of that line, but she did. Her face stiffened. She knew my dinners always meant something, and this one would mean everything. The next few days, I stayed quiet, but I watched. Their patterns, their routines, the way they whispered when they thought I wasn't listening. I caught glimpses of papers on the table, legal documents, property drafts, her handwriting more confident than his. I didn't touch anything. When thieves are busy counting what's not theirs yet, you don't interrupt. You let them dream. Instead, I focused on small things: cleaning, rearranging the kitchen, pulling out the old dinnerware. The same set my husband had bought when we were first invited to meet his boss decades ago. Polished, elegant, barely used. Perfect for the dinner I was about to host. One night, she walked in while I was polishing silver spoons. "Mom, we don't need all that. It's too much work for you." I smiled. "Don't worry, dear. Old habits die harder than pride." She laughed, fake and uneasy. "Who's even coming?" "Oh, just someone important to your husband's career," I said lightly. "A dinner for his boss." "You said he's been trying to impress him, right?" Her hand froze midair. "You invited him?" "Of course," I said, tone sweet and sharp. "A mother should help her son, shouldn't she?" She tried to cover the shock with a smile. That's generous. Generous, I repeated. Yes, that's one word for it. That night, I lay awake listening to them whisper in their room. She's planning something, she hissed. It's just a dinner, he said, but his voice wasn't sure. Nothing she does is just anything, she replied. She was right. The next morning, I bought fresh ingredients, the good ones, the ones she always avoided because budget matters. I didn't care about budgets anymore. I cared about impressions. When I returned, I saw her on the phone pacing. Cancel nothing, I heard her whisper. We'll play nice. She'll embarrass herself anyway. I almost smiled. If she thought I'd embarrass myself, then she truly didn't understand what I was cooking. The lock on the fridge was still there. I didn't touch it. I wanted it there, or a reminder, a symbol, and soon the punchline. Because the night they thought would be theirs would be the night the world saw them for who they really were. And the man walking through that door soon wouldn't just be my son's boss. But that secret? I'd keep that marinating a little longer. The days before the dinner felt like the air itself had secrets. The house smelled of spice and unease. I moved through it like a servant who'd finally learned her employer's schedule by heart. Every word they whispered, every glance they exchanged, I stored it. They were waiting for me to stumble. I was waiting for them to breathe wrong. She started acting extra kind. Guilt has terrible timing. Mom, can I help with anything? She'd ask, holding her phone like a weapon she wasn't sure how to use anymore. No, dear, I'd answer sweetly. I wouldn't want to tire you before the big night. She smiled, but the corners of her mouth twitched. It's funny. When people feel danger, they don't run. They perform. My son kept his head down, trying to act normal. He wasn't made for deceit. He sweated through lies like a child caught cheating on an exam. Every time I looked at him, he'd look away first. The lock on the fridge stayed. But every morning, I noticed new hesitation in the way he used it. A little slower, a little guilty, like maybe the lock wasn't keeping me out anymore. On Wednesday, I found her in the kitchen early, wiping down the counters I'd already cleaned. Expecting guests? I asked lightly. She flinched. No, just keeping things tidy. Tidy's good, I said. We'll need the house spotless when your husband's boss comes. Of course, she murmured. He's very particular. Is he? I asked. I remember him being more charming. Her eyes narrowed. You've met him before? I smiled. Small world, isn't it? Her silence was delicious. After that, she started watching me, pretending to scroll her phone while tracking my every move. Once I caught her recording me from behind a plant, whispering, just in case. In case of what, I wondered. Truth? That afternoon, the phone rang. My son answered. I could hear every word. Yes, sir, yes, dinner this Saturday. My mother insisted. She's traditional. A pause. Then his tone changed. Oh, you remember her? From... Oh, really? A longer silence, his face confused, almost pale. Yes, sir. She'll be here. When he hung up, he avoided my eyes. What did he say? I asked softly. Nothing, he muttered. Just... He's looking forward to it. I nodded. I'm sure he is. That night, I cooked something simple. Lentils and rice, just to fill the air with comfort. They ate quietly. She tried to bring up small talk about decor, about timing, about outfits. I kept my answers clipped. It wasn't a conversation. It was a chess match, and I'd already seen her queen cornered. Later, as I passed their room, I heard her whispering, She knows something. She doesn't, he whispered back, though he didn't sound convinced. She's planning something. Then let her. Maybe it'll help us look better. She'll ruin everything, she hissed. I smiled in the hallway. If only you knew how right you are. The next morning, I found the fridge unlocked. Accident or surrender? Either way, it didn't matter. I didn't even open it. Power isn't in using what's forbidden. It's in making the gatekeeper forget why it was locked. By Friday, the table was set, the menu written, and my silence sharper than ever. Even the walls felt like they were holding their breath. She tried one last time that night. "Mom," she said softly, sitting beside me, "I know things have been tense." I looked at her. Perfect posture, perfect tone, the same mask she'd worn since the day she entered my house. "Have they?" I asked. She blinked. "I just mean, don't explain, dear. Explanations are for people who've already been forgiven." Her face cracked, only for a second, but enough. That's when I knew she wasn't ready for tomorrow. I went to bed early, leaving them with their worry. And as I lay under the blanket, I whispered to the dark, "Tomorrow, we'll see who's really had enough." By the time the sun rose on Saturday, I was no longer angry. Anger is noisy. It demands witnesses. I wanted results. I moved through the house like it wasn't mine anymore. Like I was visiting a museum of bad decisions. Every room still smelled of them, her perfume, his hesitation. But that morning, I decided the air would smell like me again. So I opened every window. Let the wind sweep through. Let it erase their fingerprints before the guests arrived. They watched me from the hallway, whispering. "She's too calm," she said. "That's good," he answered, voice uncertain. "Maybe she's finally accepted it." Accepted it? Oh, darling, I'd perfected it. When I brewed my morning tea, I didn't use the chipped mug anymore. I used the porcelain one from my wedding, the one I'd hidden away after realizing respect had become rationed in this house. As I poured, I thought, this is the sound of reclaiming. The fridge sat unlocked now, open like an apology. I ignored it completely. Let them keep wondering if I'd forgotten. Forgetfulness can be frightening when it looks intentional. She tried to make small talk while setting the table. "Mom, the boss is very formal. Maybe you should—" I cut her off gently. "I've served better men than him, dear." Her hand trembled just enough to make the glass clink. "I just meant—" "I know what you meant," I said. "That's what worries me." Then I went back to folding napkins, each crease perfect, sharp enough to cut a conscience. I didn't look up. I didn't need to. The quiet in the room was answer enough. By afternoon, the house was spotless. I'd chosen my sari, deep maroon gold border, simple but impossible to ignore. She wore pastels, trying too hard to look soft. Funny how insecurity always dresses in light colors. My son looked nervous, pacing, fixing his tie every few minutes. He'd been waiting for this dinner for months, the night his boss would see his potential. Poor thing. The boss would see a lot more than that tonight. When he came to check on me, I was arranging flowers. "Mom," he said, voice thin, "thank you for doing this." I didn't turn around. Of course. Family helps family. The words landed like ice. He heard the chill. I wanted him to. As the clock moved toward evening, my calm grew heavier, not peaceful but purposeful. I spoke less, moved slower, and smiled just enough to be unsettling. They couldn't tell if I'd forgiven them or forgotten them, and that confusion was my favorite dish to serve. At 7:30, the first car lights flashed across the gate. He straightened his tie. She adjusted her earrings. I simply looked at the door and whispered, "Showtime." Because by the time that man stepped inside, the house they thought they controlled would become my stage, and my performance would be unforgettable. The doorbell rang at 8 sharp. Of course it did. Power never shows up late. My son rushed to open the door, fixing his smile, straightening his tie. Behind him, she hovered like perfume, visible, unnecessary. "Sir, welcome," he said, voice too eager. And there he was, Arjun Mehra, taller, grayer, still wearing confidence like it cost him nothing. He stepped in, shook my son's hand, and then saw me. The air changed. "Auntie?" His tone softened, surprise flickering into nostalgia. "It's really you." I smiled faintly. still alive, against expectations. He laughed, a low, warm sound that filled the room. You haven't changed. I raised a brow. Can't say the same about everyone here. My daughter-in-law's smile tightened like her dress. You two know each other. Arjun turned to her, polite but distant. Know her? Half the boys in school wrote her poems. I just had the decency not to hide mine in textbooks. My son blinked. Wait, what? I said sweetly. Your boss was a terrible poet, but a very good listener. Her hand froze on the serving tray. How nice. Nice? I echoed. That's not the word he used back then. Arjun chuckled, enjoying every second. Still sharp, I see. Some women grow older. You grew dangerous. The table fell silent. She recovered first. Well, dinner's ready, she chirped too brightly. Let's all sit. We sat. I watched them fidget, the two of them suddenly strangers in their own home. Arjun took one bite, his eyes widening. This is perfection. He turned to my son. Did your wife cook this? My son laughed nervously. No, sir, Mom insisted. Good thing she did, Arjun said. This tastes like discipline, something your generation lost. My son laughed weakly. She forced a smile. I stayed quiet, letting the praise spread like poison. Arjun kept talking about work, expansion, leadership. I listened, nodding occasionally, watching her pride curdle beside me. So, tell me, he said suddenly, who really runs this house? My son hesitated. We share responsibility. I sipped my soup. They lock fridges and call it responsibility. He blinked, caught off guard. Lock? I smiled thinly. A modern form of gratitude, apparently. She jumped in, nervous laughter trembling. Oh, Auntie jokes. I don't joke, I said flatly. I retire people from pretending. The room went dead still. Arjun's gaze sharpened. Seems there's a story here. There always is, I said, but some are better told after dessert. Her spoon clinked against her plate. He smiled at me. That same knowing look from school days. You were never afraid to speak truth. And you, I said, were never afraid to listen when others didn't. It was subtle, but in that moment the entire balance shifted. My son kept trying to steer the conversation back to work. Sir, about the new branch. Later, Arjun said, waving a hand. I'd rather hear about your mother. The world keeps making women like her invisible until they remind everyone who built the table they're eating at. Her face turned red. I leaned back, voice calm. Some people forget who taught them to eat. He grinned. And some people clearly need a reminder. He looked at her and said softly, You must be learning a lot from her. She forced a brittle laugh. Trying to. I smirked. Oh, I doubt that. Every bite after that was quiet, heavy with humiliation disguised as politeness. After dessert, Arjun stood. Auntie, a word? We stepped onto the balcony. The night air was cool. The house glowed behind us. False light over false hearts. You were always too good for small places, he said. Now I'm just too tired for small people, I replied. He studied me. Something's wrong here. I looked away. Wrong implies surprise. I stopped being surprised months ago. He didn't press. Smart man. Instead, he said, I'm starting a new hospitality chain. We need someone who understands warmth, control, and presence. You built this home once. Build something bigger now. I laughed softly. You're offering me a job? He smiled. No, I'm offering you your own brand. I stared at him. Why now? Because, he said, glancing toward the dining room, some people need to see what happens when the person they step on learns to stand taller. We went back inside. Her face froze when she saw the spark in his eyes. My son looked between us, clueless. Everything all right? He asked. Arjun clapped him on the shoulder. Better than all right. Your mother's joining us at the firm. I could use a woman with her command. He blinked. What? You mean she'll be managing hospitality operations, Arjun said. You'll be reporting to her in some areas, actually. You could have sliced the silence with the butter knife. I just poured myself more water. Well, I said, looks like someone finally unlocked the right door. She snapped, This is ridiculous. I turned to her, eyes like steel. No, dear, this is hierarchy. Arjun tried not to smile. She's right. You'll want to learn respect fast. Mrs. Rao doesn't tolerate amateurs. He left soon after, polite and professional. When the door closed, the silence inside was thick enough to drown in. My son stared at me. Mom, what have you done? I looked at him. Something you should have learned before locking that fridge. Fed the right person. He swallowed hard. Are you serious about this job? Oh, completely, I said. And don't worry, I'll make sure your boss gets his meals on time. He's got better taste than you. Her eyes filled with tears. Not sorrow, but defeat. Congratulations, she spat. You turned pity into promotion. I smiled. No, darling. I turned humiliation into strategy. Try it sometime, though you'll need a spine first. I walked past them, opened the fridge, and took out a bowl of chilled fruit. The cold air hit my face, refreshing, familiar, free. Good night, I said, closing the door behind me. And next time you think of locking something, make sure it's not your own future. The offer letter came the next morning, formal, polished, heavy with the kind of respect my own house had stopped giving me. Hospitality director, it said. Not assistant, not helper, director. My son hovered near the table as I read it, pretending to drink tea that had already gone cold. You're really thinking of taking it? He asked. I didn't look up. When opportunity knocks, Beta, you don't check with the people who tried to lock your fridge. He flinched. We said we were sorry. No, I said. You said you were caught. His mouth snapped shut. Good. Progress. She came in a few minutes later, dressed, but not ready. That's what insecurity looks like. Mom, are you sure this job is a good idea? For whom? I asked. She forced a smile. For you, of course. Your health, your age. My age is experienced, I said, folding the letter. Your concern is expired. After that, they stopped pretending to be happy for me. I went to the office on Monday. Glass building, polished floors, young faces rushing with fake purpose. I walked in slowly, not because I was old, but because I wanted the building to adjust to me. The receptionist looked up, half bored. Yes? I'm here to see Mr. Mehra. She started to ask, Do you have an appointment? Then Arjun stepped out of his cabin. You don't ask her that, he said. You ask if we're ready for her. The girl turned red. Sorry, ma'am. I smiled. Better get used to saying that. A lot of people will. Arjun showed me around, conference rooms, staff areas, the test kitchen. Everywhere we walked, people glanced at me, then at him. Respect travels fast when power walks beside it. He stopped in front of a glass-walled office. This will be yours, he said. View of the city. I thought you should see what you're above. I stepped in. Touched the desk. Solid wood, not cheap. Feels like it can handle weight, I said. Unlike some people. He laughed. Your son's been interesting at work lately, a bit scattered. Guilt is heavy, I replied. He's just not used to carrying anything that isn't handed to him. I started slowly, reviewing menus, observing staff, watching how people treated each other. And everywhere I saw the same pattern. Those who thought titles gave them dignity, and those who knew competence did. Be ruthless with standards, Arjun told me. Don't worry, I said. I practice at home. Soon, word spread. There was a new auntie in the office who didn't tolerate laziness, lies, or lukewarm tea. Staff tried to charm me at first. Smiles, compliments, flattery. I cut through all of it with one rule. If you want my approval, fix your work, not your tone. In meetings, I spoke plainly. If your food looks rich but tastes empty, it's just like a bad marriage. Pretty table, starved heart. People laughed nervously, but they adjusted. Numbers don't lie. Within weeks, client feedback improved. Guests started remembering the experience, not just the bill. Arjun showed me the reports. "You're turning this place around." I shrugged. "I've been turning houses around my whole life. This one at least pays me." The salary hit my account. Real numbers, not pocket money. I opened my banking app and watched the balance grow. At home, everything shifted. My son came in from work one evening, stress written across his face. "How was your day, Mom?" "Profitable," I said. "Yours?" He hesitated. "They moved me to a different project." "Demotion or disguise?" I asked. He swallowed. "Realignment." "Is that HR's word or your ego's?" He didn't answer. She started hovering again, less queen, more anxious tenant. "Mom, do they treat you well there?" "Better than here," I said pleasantly. "No one's tried to lock my lunch yet." She winced. "How long are you planning to keep punishing us?" "As long as the memory of that lock stays shiny," I said. "Right now, it's crystal clear." The mystery grew on their faces every day. Why was Arjun calling me more? Why was I coming home later, dressed sharper, eyes brighter? Why did the world outside seem to be clapping for the woman they'd decided was too much? They started asking small, desperate questions. "Long day? Important meeting? Everything okay at work?" I answered with the kind of casual cruelty reserved for the ungrateful. "Very long. Very important. Much better than you'd like." One night, he finally snapped, "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I stared at him. "Enjoying what? The fact that your boss sees more value in your mother than you do?" He looked away, jaw clenched. "I made a mistake," he muttered. "No," I said. "You revealed yourself. Stop asking the world to blame the mirror." Meanwhile, at the office, Arjun started bringing me into bigger decisions. Brand deals, partnerships, investor dinners. "You have a way of reading people," he said. "I need that in the room." "I've been reading ungrateful faces for years," I replied. "This is just a bigger stage." Then came the night he said it. "You know, Auntie, we could do more than just a role. We could build something under your name." I frowned. "My name?" He nodded. "You created warmth in a house that didn't deserve it. Imagine what you could create in a place that does." He showed me a pitch deck, a chain of boutique guest houses branded around me, my recipes, my aesthetic, my way of hosting. "We'll fund it," he said. "You'll run it. Profit share, equity. Not salary, partnership." I stared at the numbers. Real power, real ownership. I thought of the lock, the fridge, the word enough. "Why me?" I asked quietly. He held my gaze. "Because you built value where others built cages. Investors like that." The mystery, then, wasn't what was happening to me. It was what was happening to them. At home, my son paced more. Her voice grew sharper, more defensive. They could feel something slipping, power, control, the illusion that I needed them. But I said nothing. Let them stew. Let them watch. Because soon the world would not just see me fed, it would see me feast. And they would have front row seats to the menu they helped create. It started quietly. Like all powerful things do. One article, one headline. Former homemaker turns visionary partner in luxury hospitality chain. My photo beneath it, calm, confident, in maroon silk and pearls. The phone started ringing that morning before I'd even had tea. Reporters, investors, distant relatives who'd suddenly remembered my number. And somewhere between those calls, my son's voice, trembling, low, scared. "Mom, this article, is this real?" I took a slow sip of tea. "You think I forged success now?" He was silent. "You partnered with Arjun Mehra?" he finally asked. "I didn't partner," I said. I built. He exhaled sharply. Why didn't you tell me? Because you don't listen, I said, placing the cup down. You lecture. Behind him, I could hear her voice, high, panicked. She's doing this to humiliate us, to make us look small. I smiled. No, dear, you did that yourselves. I'm just adding lighting so everyone can see it clearly. That day, my inbox filled with congratulations. People I hadn't spoken to in years called me ma'am now. Every message was a reminder. Respect doesn't return until power does. At the office, Arjun looked at me across the glass table. You're handling fame better than most executives. Fame's just noise, I said. I've lived with louder lies. He chuckled. Your son must be confused. Confusion's the first stage of consequence, I replied. It's healthy. By the end of the month, my name was on 3 legal documents: co-founder, investor, and equity partner. The digits were real. The ownership was sealed. And the same man who'd once told me I'd had enough now worked under a company half owned by his mother. I didn't have to humiliate him publicly. The world was doing it naturally, with awards, features, and invitations he never received. When he passed my office one afternoon, he tried to keep his head high. Need anything, Mom? Yes, I said. Results, not apologies. He hesitated. You've changed. No, I said, smiling thinly. You just met the version of me you built. He left without replying. A few days later, Arjun called me into his office. We're expanding internationally, he said. London first. I want you to lead it. I raised an eyebrow. You trust me with that? He smirked. You've already proven you can handle disloyal employees and fragile egos. I laughed quietly. Oh, you've been watching. Always, he said. And I'm not the only one. Investors love your story. Single-handed rise, emotional grit, family betrayal, success through grace. You're a brand now, Auntie. Brand, I repeated softly. Interesting word for survival. The truth unfolded slowly at home, too. Bills started showing up that I no longer paid. They noticed. Mom, he said carefully one night, could we borrow some money? Just for a few months. I set my plate down. You still have the fridge key? He blinked. What? Check the pocket, I said. Maybe it'll unlock your self-respect. His face hardened. Why are you doing this? Doing what? I asked. Eating without permission? Earning without apology? He stormed out. She stayed, eyes wet but sharp. You'll destroy him, she said. No, I said. He'll destroy himself. I'm just turning the lights on. Arjun started visiting the house more often, partly for business, partly for observation. He'd sit at the dining table discussing numbers while ignoring the tension thick in the air. Once, while reviewing documents, he said, It's poetic, you know. The woman they tried to silence now owns the table they eat at. Poetic, I agreed, but not over yet. He tilted his head. You still want something more? Closure, I said. The kind you can taste. He smiled. Then host one more dinner. I'll bring the right guests. That dinner changed everything again. It wasn't just a meal. It was theater. Investors, executives, cameras, and my son seated across from me, small, sweating, silent. Arjun toasted mid-meal. To Mrs. Rao, the reason this brand exists. Applause filled the room. Cameras flashed. My son forced a smile. She sat beside him, frozen, realizing every clap was a nail in their coffin. When the reporters asked for photos, I said, Of course. Let's get a family shot. They stood awkwardly beside me as cameras clicked, me in the center, them as props in a success story they never earned. Later, when everyone left, she hissed, Was this your plan all along? To humiliate us? I looked at her, calm, unbothered. No, that was your plan. Mine was to survive beautifully. She glared. You think money makes you right? No, I said softly, but it makes me free. Then I turned to my son. You once locked me away from food. Now the world eats because of me. Don't ever confuse tables turning with mercy. This isn't forgiveness, it's balance. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. His silence was the confession I'd waited for. By the next morning, he'd requested a transfer. Another branch, another city. Cowardice travels faster than guilt. And as for her, she stayed behind, hollow-eyed, trapped in a house that no longer listened to her voice. The truth was no longer a secret. It was public, permanent, profitable. They'd taken my dignity once. I'd turned it into a brand name. The world called it inspirational. I called it revenge with interest. He showed up at my office unannounced. No call, no appointment, just a trembling shadow in a place too bright for him. "Mom," he said, standing in the doorway, "can we talk?" I didn't look up right away. I finished signing a contract first, made him wait, the way he once made me. When I finally raised my eyes, my voice was steady. "Speak." He stepped inside, shoulders slumped. "I'm leaving the company." I nodded. "Good. You were taking up air." He winced. "Please don't do that." "Do what?" "Make me feel like I'm worthless." I smiled faintly. "Oh, Beta, you manage that all by yourself." He exhaled hard, pain twisting his face. "I made a mistake, okay? I was stupid. She said things. I believed her. I thought that I'd always forgive you." I cut in. "That's your problem. You confuse endurance with weakness." He sat down. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I leaned back in my chair. "You didn't mean to get caught." Silence. Thick. Bitter. Necessary. "I miss you," he said quietly. "I miss how things used to be." I tapped the pen on the desk. "How they used to be? You mean when I cooked, cleaned, and got locked out of my own kitchen?" He shook his head. "You're twisting it." I laughed, sharp, humorless. "No, I'm remembering it." He stood, frustrated. "Why are you doing this? You already won." "Won," I said softly. "There's no winning when the battlefield is your own home. I didn't win. I survived. And survival demands receipts." He swallowed. "You've changed." "No," I said. "You just met the woman you raised in captivity." He froze. I continued. "Do you know what freedom feels like, Beta? It's not happiness. It's hunger without permission." He sat back down, defeated. "I want to make it right." "Then start by apologizing to the woman who had to become a storm just to be heard." His eyes filled. "I'm sorry." "Not enough." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "You're sorry because you lost control, not because you lost me." He dropped his gaze. "What do you want me to do?" "Live with it," I said simply. "That's your sentence." The door opened then. Her timing, as always, perfect for disaster. She stepped in, arms crossed, pretending composure. "So this is where the queen holds court." I turned slowly. "Careful, dear. Your sarcasm is leaking." She glared. "You think you've won, don't you? You ruined him." "No," I said. "I revealed him. There's a difference." "He can't sleep. He barely eats." I smiled coldly. "I remember the feeling." She took a step forward. "You'll regret this." "I already regret letting you in my house," I said. "Everything else has been delightful." Her lip trembled. "You're cruel." "I learned from the best," I said, eyes cutting through her. "You taught me what happens when kindness meets greed." For a second, she looked like she might cry. Then she straightened. "You'll die alone." Better than living surrounded by parasites. I stood. The office went silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. Both of them looked small now. Two people who once had everything but didn't know how to hold it. I picked up my purse. "You both should go. Security doesn't like scenes." He stood slowly. "Mom?" I looked at him one last time. "You'll never understand, but that's fine. You were never meant to." As they left, I sat back down and looked at the skyline outside my window, the city glowing under my name. Power didn't feel like victory. It felt like peace, cold, earned, absolute. They thought betrayal would break me. It built me. And now, every empire I own is just a longer way of saying one thing. I forgave myself before I ever forgave them. Justice, when it finally arrives, doesn't knock. It walks in like it owns the place, calm, certain, dressed in silence. Mine came on the day of the company's annual gala. Gold invitations, red carpets, flashing cameras, a night meant to celebrate visionaries who turned hardship into legacy. My name was printed at the top, Mrs. Meera Rao, co-founder and visionary partner. I stood before the mirror that evening, adjusting my emerald earrings, not out of vanity, out of precision. If they were going to stare, I wanted their eyes to burn. Arjun arrived to escort me. "You ready?" I smiled. "I've been ready since the day someone locked my fridge." The gala was a storm of lights and applause. Every step I took on that carpet felt like a correction, the universe rewriting what my son tried to erase. Photographers called out, "Ma'am, one smile here." I gave them one, just one, controlled, deadly. Inside, the stage gleamed. Rows of men who once ignored me now clapped with hollow enthusiasm, and among them, my son and his wife, seated by the wall like ghosts trying to stay unseen. I saw them the moment I walked in. He looked thinner. She looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that comes from pretending everything's fine. Arjun whispered, "They came?" I nodded. Of course. Guilt's favorite seat is the front row. The ceremony began. Speeches, applause, champagne. Finally, Arjun took the mic. "This year," he said, "we honor a woman who reminded us that strength doesn't shout. It builds." She turned humiliation into leadership, silence into a business, and family betrayal into fuel. He turned to me. "Mrs. Rao, would you join us?" The crowd rose, clapping. Every flashbulb was lightning, every cheer an echo of everything I'd swallowed for years. I stepped on stage, steady and unhurried, took the mic, smiled. "Thank you," I began. "My story isn't about success. It's about recognition, the kind you only earn when people underestimate you long enough." Soft laughter, tight smiles. I continued. "There was a time when I was told I'd had enough. Enough food, enough freedom, enough voice. But here's the truth. You can't limit someone who was never asking for permission." Gasps scattered across the room. My son's head dropped. She froze beside him, her painted nails gripping the glass too tight. I looked straight at them. "And if anyone ever tries to silence you, remember, even locks rust." The crowd erupted. Applause thundered. But I didn't look away from the two faces I'd been waiting to see break. After the ceremony, journalists surrounded me. Questions flew like arrows. How did you rise after betrayal? What's your secret to strength? I smiled. Starvation teaches discipline. Disrespect teaches strategy. Later, during the dinner that followed, I made sure they were seated close enough to hear every congratulatory word. "Ma'am, you're an inspiration. You must be so proud of your family." Pride. What a funny word. It sounds so much like silence when spoken by the wrong people. My son came up finally, eyes red, voice trembling. "Mom, please, can we talk? Just 5 minutes." I turned slowly. "Talk? Now you want conversation?" He nodded. "Please, not here." I led him to the edge of the hall, the same kind of corner where I used to stand at family gatherings, invisible and polite. He said, "I know I can't undo it. I know I failed you, but please, stop doing this in public." I tilted my head. "Doing what? Existing successfully?" "It's humiliating," he whispered. "For you," I said, "not for me." He looked broken, and for a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. "You could start over," I said softly. "But you won't, because that requires humility, not apologies." Then she appeared, mascara streaked, words trembling. You've taken everything from us. I looked at her, calm as ever. No, I just took back what was mine. The respect, the peace, the power you borrowed without permission. She glared. You ruined our marriage. I smirked. You two ruined it when you made cruelty a couple's activity. The photographers caught us mid-stare. 3 frozen figures, truth carved into their expressions. By morning, that photo was everywhere. Family fracture behind success story? They tried to spin it. I didn't. Why deny the truth when it's profitable? Every story needs a villain. I'd already played the victim once. This time, I owned the stage. Weeks later, the brand hit record sales. People didn't just buy the product, they bought the narrative. The betrayed mother turned mogul. Sharp, elegant, untouchable. And the 2 people who once thought they'd erased me? They couldn't walk into a restaurant without hearing my name on someone's lips. I never raised my voice, never sought revenge. I just turned their cruelty into currency. That's justice. Not loud, not dramatic, but permanent. When the gala ended that night, I walked out into the cool air. The city lights flickered like applause that wouldn't stop. Arjun joined me, quiet for once. You got your closure, he said. I nodded. No, I got my justice. Closure's for people who still care. He smiled. You've changed the game. I looked back at the glowing building behind me. No, Arjun, I just reminded them who built the board. The next morning, the city still buzzed with my name. News tickers rolled, social media feeds swarmed, and messages poured in. Icon, legend, unstoppable. Funny. The same world that once ignored me was now kneeling at my story's feet. I sat in my kitchen, the same one that once held a locked fridge and 2 ungrateful mouths. The sun slipped through the curtains, catching the metal glint of that same silver lock. Still there, on the shelf, collecting dust but not forgotten. I picked it up, turned it in my hand. Cold, hollow, just like the people who'd once used it. Arjun called that morning. Did you see the numbers? He said. The shares jumped overnight. You're trending across the country. I smiled. So are the lessons. He laughed softly. What's next, Mira? Peace, I said. Not the quiet kind, the earned kind. After the call, I brewed tea. Strong, sweet, unapologetic. The scent filled the house, wrapping around me like something sacred, something mine. Outside, the street kids shouted playing cricket. Their laughter rose and fell like reminders that life doesn't stop for anyone, not for betrayal, not for success. It just keeps going. I poured tea into my porcelain cup, the same one from my wedding. Funny how objects outlive emotions. They hold memories better than people ever do. The house was silent now. No shouting, no footsteps, just me, my tea, and the faint hum of the fridge, unlocked, unguarded, unafraid. I stood, walked to it, opened the door. Rows of fresh fruit, rich sauces, cold milk, abundance, unhidden, freedom, tangible. And I said softly, to no one in particular, see, I finally had enough. Of you, of limits, of being small. The lock sat on the counter, useless and defeated. I didn't throw it away. Some reminders deserve to stay close, just so you remember how far you've come. They say revenge is sweet. They're wrong. Revenge is silent. It's sipping tea in peace while the people who doubted you can't afford calm anymore. I took another sip, slow and deliberate. Every swallow felt like reclamation, every breath like forgiveness for myself, not them. Some stories end with forgiveness. Mine ends with freedom. And that lock? It's still here, not to keep me out, but to remind me no one ever will again. 5 years later. Success ages differently than pain. It grows quieter, cleaner, easier to live with. The noise around my name has faded now, but the respect remains. Steady, permanent, like good steel. My brand has gone international. Guests book months in advance just to experience the Mira method. Warmth with spine, luxury without apology. Every interview still asks the same question: what changed your life? And I still give the same answer: a lock. Sometimes I drive past my old neighborhood. The house still stands, smaller now, in memory, if not in size. A new family lives there. Laughter spills through the same windows where I once stood unheard. I don't stop. I just smile. It looks happier without us. My son lives abroad now. He sends polite messages once in a while, birthday wishes, holiday greetings, digital peace offerings. I reply when I feel generous. I'm not cruel anymore. Cruelty requires effort. Indifference is lighter. He once wrote, "I hope you've forgiven me." I never answered. Forgiveness is overrated. Understanding is enough. And I understand him now. Weak people fear strength, especially when it looks familiar. The silver lock still sits on my desk in a glass box. Not a wound anymore, a trophy. It doesn't sting to see it. It just reminds me that the door they tried to close was the one that opened everything else. Sometimes being left behind is the fastest way to get ahead, because when they drove away, I learned to walk alone, and the world noticed. Now, I raise my tea to anyone who's ever been dismissed, silenced, or locked out. Here's to the quiet ones, the ones they underestimate until it's too late. To you watching this, what would you have done if your own family tried to erase you? Would you fight, forgive, or rebuild like I did? Tell me in the comments. I want to know your answer. And if you've ever trusted the wrong people, this story was for you. Hit subscribe. Because the next story, it might sound a little too familiar. Tell me in the comments. And if you've ever trusted the wrong people, this story is for you. If my story hit a nerve, leave a heart in the comments so I know I'm not alone. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next story might sound a little too familiar.